Welcome back, everyone, to the second segment of this month's Wired for Success podcast. You probably noticed we've got two new guests with us. We've got Tim Moore, our account manager from Gamma Communications. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
Excellent. We'll get a bit further into it with you later. And we've also got our managing director, who needs no introduction, Paul James, on your second episode on the bounce, I believe.
Back due to unpopular demand.
Definitely going to his head all this thing.
So today, I just kind of wanted to give us a quick overview of the last month and everything that's been going on, and all the exciting things that we've kind of got coming up for the next 12 months, really.
Yeah, no problem. I think you should address me as Mr. Managing Director from now on, Paul. But you know,
yeah.
It's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen. I've known you too long.
I thought it was worth a try. Or Mr. President, anything like that.
It'll be.
We've got lots going on. In the last month, obviously, we're going to bring in a new cabling engineer this quarter to expand the cabling side of the business.
Can I just interrupt? Chris, you've heard it from the MD's mouth.
I told him yesterday, so he knows.
Excellent.
He knows. And he won't hear this for another couple of weeks anyway, so because I can get away with it for a while. We're looking at maybe bringing forward an installation engineer in the ops department, just to, as we build more solutions, more hosted solutions, to bring somebody in. So we're looking at that. We've got some new products, Wildix being one of them, which is a new cloud-based telephony system. We're doing a lot of work on the branding, which we'll get to in a minute, because I know you're going to talk about that in more detail. And then the big thing coming up, we've done a lot of work on, is the Pride of Tameside Awards. Because we've been awarded.
Awarded.
Well, I don't know. Jumping the gun there a bit. We've been nominated and shortlisted for Digital and Tech Business of the Year,
which is excellent work.
Yeah, we're a shoo-in. Fingers crossed. That takes place on the 23rd of May, and we're also hosting our own pre-event beforehand, just to celebrate Tameside business.
And can you just give us a quick run view of when that is? Where it is?
It's at our office in Duckingfield, right opposite the town hall. You can go on Eventbrite and just go on Eventbrite, search for Red Rock Communications, that right, Manny?
Starts at 4 o'clock?
Starts at 4 till 6. And then straight across the road to the awards. So it could be quite a heavy few hours.
One for us, that, Jake.
But no, we just wanted to do something beforehand, just to get local businesses together, the sponsors, because we're also sponsoring the Pride of Tameside Awards. Just have a nice, relaxing couple of hours, food, bit of drink, and then across to the awards.
Sounds fantastic. Mm-hmm. And I know you've been doing a lot of work on branding recently, website, and a big push on culture. Mm-hmm. It'd be great if we could just kind of dive into some of that a bit deeper, if you wouldn't mind. Yeah,
so we've gone through a rebrand. I always joke because we'd never really had a brand to begin with, I think. It's one of the things, like the sales and marketing focus of the business.
Yeah, the logo came from a friend of mine, didn't it?
Yeah, and the name came from Google generator. So we never really focused on sales and marketing. We'll come back to that in a minute. So we're going through a rebrand at the moment, which is a few months into that now. But I talk to people about branding, and it's you fall into that easy trap of, it's just a logo change.
It's often perceived, isn't it, as change your logo, it's a quick.
Yeah, and it's not. Well, it can be, but that's not what we're doing. So I naively, I'm not sure in terms of where we get to in this, but we work with a company called Dawn Creative. Dave O'Hearns he's the MD. He reached out last November. I think he'd seen a post from Manny or a newsletter and said, I think I can help you bring it together a bit more consistently. That's where it started. And obviously, it's very naive. You think you go into it thinking it'll just be a couple of months, bish, bash, bosh.
It's never ending, isn't it?
It's so much. It touches every area of the business from the visuals. So the stuff you'll see, the logos, the the fonts, the colours, the imagery, but to the stuff you don't see behind the scenes.
It also ties in with the culture, doesn't it? Everything's kind of runs hand in hand in parallel.
Yeah, so one of the things we did is we've always had values of Red Rock, but the stuff we've done, part of this, obviously the stuff you won't. So you'll see it, it just won't be tangible in terms of the values. You'll just feel it when you're working with Red Rock. But they've just modernised it, brought it into the business we want to be for the next 5 years, made it more flexible so that we can grow, that we're not constrained by the values and the vision, mission, purpose of the business. So yeah, it's just a huge amount of work going into it. We're still a long way from finishing it.
Very much at the beginning of the process.
We are, yeah.
And talking of processes, working with Dave at Dawn, who was absolutely fantastic. That was a really interesting process and a really fun day. Yeah. When Dave Ilford came into the office.
Yeah.
Maybe if you could just go into that and how we went about going through that process and what the day involved.
Yeah. So before they start working with you, they run a full 1-day workshop with anyone who wants to be involved. And the point of that is just to get out of everybody who will be involved in the rebrand what will happen. So what type of business we are, what type of business we want to be, the values we hold, how we want to be recognised within the market, whether we want to be bold or traditional, fun, boring. You just pulling out all that information.
And how did he go about pulling that information out?
Well,
what were a few of the key findings?
Well, David Beckham smells nice and would love to have him a hug, but yeah.
So what happens is Dave comes in, and part of his process is he sits down and gives you a series of sort of playing cards, but the playing cards are in the style of sort of celebrities. So we have sort of David Beckham was one, Usain Bolt, Malcolm X, if I remember rightly,
Dr. King,
Superman, and then you each pick 3 of the cards that you would like to represent your brand, and I quite remember which 3 you picked.
I think I had Dr. King was definitely one of them. I think Superman might have been one.
I know I picked Usain Bolt.
Mm. Yeah, but it's just trying to pull out what they represent and why it's important to you and what you want that to be brought into Red Rock. So things like truth, honesty, keeping it simple, being bold, daring, things like that, and then incorporating it into the values of the business, and then into the stuff you'll see. So when we launch and you see the logo and you see the new colours and the fonts, it should represent what's come from that in terms of being bold, in terms of being different. We want to separate ourselves. Now, telecoms and IT can get quite samey.
Yeah, and I think there's also quite a negative connotation around the industry, which we were really, really keen to not brush aside, but paint a picture of that. Not all telecoms companies are kind of that way inclined, and that's important. One of the big things was setting ourselves apart from certain other providers.
Yeah, because obviously when you're selling, phone systems, internet, there's no real USP as such. It's a really difficult question to answer. What's your USP? So one of the things we worked on with Dawn is the points of difference. So the things where we can differentiate. Yes. Yeah. And we've got lots of those, and it's just incorporating them into the business.
Cool. And I think there was a few key points which came from that, which you kind of touch on there, which is processes, transparency, honesty and boldness.
Yep.
So as MD of Red Rock, how do you see yourself going about actually implement them?
It's a long haul. It's a long rate. You can't just change it overnight. Everyone thinks you can just flip a switch and suddenly everyone just lives those values. It doesn't work that way. But I think the people we've got in Red Rock and the people who aren't here yet, who will be in the next 1, 2, 3, 5 years, we want them to live and breathe those values. And if that happens, that's how we can just become.
It becomes
business we want to
becomes the norm, doesn't it? I think it's also important to highlight the importance of working with a supply chain who kind of shares them similar values, which again kind of leads me into the work we do with Tim and Gamma Communications, which are, you know, they're a national company, but certainly based head off in
international.
Well, let's go sounding a little bit more.
We're getting to yeah. But yeah, I know, because Gamma are going through a rebrand. They're obviously going through all that at a much bigger level than us. But it's just a huge amount of work.
Regardless of size, I think it's a realisation of we still all have them same pain points.
Yes. Yeah, one thing I get from networking and meeting other people is it's the exact same issues. It's just on different scales. So every single business goes through the same issues, whether it's cash flow, recruitment, culture. It doesn't matter. It's the exact same thing, just on a different scale.
It's like what you were saying. It takes a lot of time for kind of like Gamma's rebranding, they wanted to make sure every little detail was perfect. So I can imagine, obviously, you guys go through the same thing as well.
Yeah, it is. It's just there's so much, and you just think it's just everything.
Yeah,
it's like email signatures through to the
sales collateral,
the quotes, the social media,
to the values that you hire people based on, and things like that. And
even just little things like the wrapping on the the vans, and it's just.
But again, Dave mentioned it. It's living by them values, and making sure we're all accountable and responsible for living by them values.
Yeah,
I think that's what's going to be.
Yeah, we'll touch on that. Well, we'll touch on it more in the culture in a minute. But yeah, it's huge, because you have. If you don't live by those values, it just makes it so much harder. It's just embedding them into the business. Living by it makes everything easier. You're not telling one story on social media, etc., and then a completely different story when you go and actually see a customer and they go, "Yeah, God, you."
Creates consistency.
It's consistency, and people then start to trust you more.
Brand congruency.
What?
Brand congruency.
Sounds like a Paul Bate word. You can tell you two have been working together.
Can you expand on that, Jason, for our audience who might not understand?
So the brand is congruent for all channels, meaning that from your values all the way through to your colours and your schemes, it's the same message going across.
So, okay.
Well, that's some every day.
Yeah, there we go.
So the big question, Paul, when will we see the new logo?
Well, I've seen it already. That is still being discussed. I was on the phone with Dave yesterday, actually, at dawn. We were talking about that. So, yeah, we still need to... There's a few things... We may tease a few things over the coming weeks. But the actual launch, we don't know yet.
Sometime 2024.
I bloody hope so, yeah, because it's expensive.
So do I.
Yeah, it will definitely be in 20. I hope, summer 2024. I think would be a fair approximation.
Yeah.
One of those things that we don't want to rush, so isn't it?
There's no point.
It's about it being right.
It's got to be right rather than
because it's going to represent us for the next 5 years.
You don't want to have to go back to it in like 6, 12 months time.
You just look an idiot then, because everyone just goes, "Hang on, didn't you do this 6 months ago?
Yeah,
what's going on?"
You'd rather put the time into it now instead of obviously going back to a 6 months time.
Yeah, it's massive. It's just getting everyone on the same page, getting everything ready. It's almost like flicking a switch for the stuff you'll see. So we can change all the social media stuff overnight. We can change the quote templates and the website and blah, blah, blah. But
it's the intangibles, isn't it? It's the hidden things which are going to be.
Yeah. And how we act and how we talk to customers, how we behave. It has to go hand in hand with the brand.
But I think it's important to mention that, just because we're going through this rebrand, it doesn't mean that, and as things change, we're not going to lose the sense of who we are as a business. Like the things that we've done really well and the things that we've kept at its core in terms of, putting clients first and doing that kind of, and thinking about customers is still going to sit at the heart of what we do. And that's so important because, it's like we're talking about, how we're going to communicate with customers, how we're going to communicate with people. But really those core values and those things are what's got us to where we've where we are, and they're going to continue to propel us into the future. But particularly in my eyes, from a sales perspective. So just to, as we're talking about things changing and going through that process, if people hear it and thinking, oh, they're going to be a different company. Yes, we are going to be different, but different for the better, not sacrificing the things that make us good.
No.
Yeah, which I think it leads in nicely to a quick chat about culture. That's something that you've always been big on. I think that is exactly, you know, if we can keep the culture as it is and just grow on that, we keep the core of the business as we want it to be. So we've done a lot recently on sustainability and some work with charities, predominantly with Willowwood. I know we did the Zipwire Challenge and raised a substantial amount of money for Willowwood last month. So what other activities have we got coming up? Do you want to just give the audience a quick overview of the Zipwire Day and how that went?
Yeah, I mean, just before we come to that, just wanted to just talk about culture in general, if you don't mind. Just in terms of, so
you're the MD, do what you want.
Exactly. I keep getting told that it's an absolute load of bleep because I never get to do it. Everyone says, "It's your business for you. Make a decision. Do what you want, and then you make a decision." No, that was wrong. No, you're not doing that. Doing that again. But yeah, bring me back to that point on Zipwire and Willowwood, etc. in a minute if I go off on a tangent. But yeah, culture, it is really important to me. It always has been since we started Red Rock, but particularly since I was MD. But for me, it should be key to everybody. It should be important to everyone, whether you're an apprentice or an MD. So culture, really, it should be really difficult to put your finger on why culture is important if it's done right. Because when I started doing this role, you start doing like the easy things that you think are culture. Like, I'm not saying that they're not important, but they are. But things like baking butties on a Friday morning, or pizza once a quarter, or a night out here and there, and they are important, but they're sort of the easy things to do. They don't really embed the culture. It's just a night out. It won't keep you at a business. If you get a job off from someone else, you're not going to stay because we go out for pizza once a quarter. It's not going to happen. It's the stuff you don't see that's really hard to do. That's what keeps people at the business. That's what drives the business. And when it's done right, and it takes a long time, it should be really hard for anyone who asks you why is Red Rock great to say.
There's no real answer, is there? I think I harped on about it some time ago about the sort of manufactured culture, which is, as you say, it's the sort of the nights out, the pizzas,
which are important, absolutely, because they build the team.
But more importantly is the hidden culture behind that and the true culture of the business.
Yeah, and it's a huge amount of work. Even for our business, it's only 10 people. Obviously, we've got plans to come to that at the end, to bring in more people this year. But it's a huge amount of work, and it takes everyone in the business to pull together and live by the values we talked about in the branding. Because it goes wrong when you have people in the business who live outside those values and think they can work outside them because they're more important or for whatever reason. It's absolutely massive. I put a quote here, and it wasn't, I think, Peter Drucker, but culture eats strategy for breakfast. He didn't say it, it just gets attributed to him. But it does. Culture trumps strategy every time. We can have the best strategy, the best sales, the best pipeline, sales coming. It won't matter if the culture's wrong.
And that comes down to the people.
It comes down to the people, because the people who will
form the culture,
and they will help you achieve what you want to achieve as a business. It's just, if we live by the values, we do what we say we're going to do, hold yourself accountable, have everyone's backs, everything else, like we said before, comes automatically. The money, the sales, the customers, the lifestyles, if we want that, for us as owners. It all comes part of it. What will rip it apart is if you have different parts of the business acting differently, because they play different levels of importance.
Something we've always struggled with over the sort of first few years of Red Rock.
Yeah, so it is. It's huge. But yeah, going back to
the zip wire.
Yeah, and the eagle over there absolutely trashed us. No, it was really good. It's just we really want to do more locally. That's why we're getting involved with places like organisations like Willowwood, the Tameside in general, the Growth Hub, Tameside Means Business, the charities that we do a lot of work with. Because it's huge. But the zip wire was just it's a tangible. It's a bit like the Peters. You just go, you can go and do it, you can raise money, it's a quick win. But it's really good. You get to meet a lot of people, you get to...
It was an experience.
It was an experience. Some of us enjoyed it more than others, I think. I don't know why you bothered, because you just had your eyes shut. It's like, why bother? It was an experience. It's a terror. I think you were more scared of that than doing the podcast.
Well, it was the first mini zip wire. And I kind of, it was probably, 200 foot high?
It was high.
And it was kind of a realisation again that I really do not like heights. and it was a kind of, moment when we're driving up in that rickety old van and we get to the top. And
it's a long way down, isn't it?
But it's gale force winds and they put you in a suit and hang you off a zip wire. And I'm like... It's not for me, this, Tim.
It's
not for me.
The waiting,
I getting like closed my eyes and soared down. I bet you listened to Manny scream and yeah.
I bet you wish you were just doing the little mini one, weren't you? So
I do, mate. Honestly, I did the mini one. I was like, can I get out of this? And I'm like, not a chance. Absolutely not a chance.
No, it was good. I think they raised. I think it was 12 to 14 grand for the hospice.
And that's Willowwood Hospice?
Willowwood Hospice, yeah, in Tameside. I think they have about 8 shops throughout the region as well, throughout the boroughs. So yeah, it costs them, I think they have to raise 3.5 million every year just to keep going.
Is it 30% of the funding's from government and the rest is
fundraising?
Self-funding.
So it's just trying to give back where we can. It's hugely important, and again, it just embeds part of the culture that we want to form.
Cool. So coming up this month, we've got Mental Health Awareness Week.
Yes.
So this month, we're not actually in May yet.
We will be when this goes.
We are. This is true. Good point.
Time travel. Now it's May.
So I know Sarah...
I have that power as an MD.
Yeah. Sarah tends to head up the Mental Health Awareness Week.
She does. She's our mental health first aider.
What have we got going on?
There'll be lots because, as I said, Sarah's our mental health first aider. So she puts on numerous events in the office.
Is this the second year we've done Mental Health Awareness Week?
Yeah. So obviously there'll be the Wear It Green week, which again is that visual, the easy thing we can do. But obviously one of the things we haven't talked about this yet, I have with Sarah, is we will...
So now's a great time to find out what we do. Yeah, so
podcast exclusive.
How does it involve?
It involves the chaps in Red Rock.
Oh.
Obviously we do a lot internally, promoting mental health, etc., physical health, women's health. Elle's passionate about that. But one thing we don't do, it's been flagged with me, is that as the men in the office, we don't really... we're blokes, we don't talk about that. Obviously one of our confidants, Gareth, his business, but his mantra is men should talk. So, and we find it more difficult to do that. So what I do. So yeah, we're going to be doing something with just the guys.